Oh man, Brandon, I don't know about you. Last week kicked my butt. I picked up something, so I spent all day Friday bowing before the porcelain throne. So I've had to rally ever since then to get ready for this episode. But drinking my fluids, got my Powerade here. I'm all ready to go. This one's special. We're sort of spinning it back to Abilene with this one. So, dude, let's kick it off right.
Yeah, it's always fun to reminisce on the Abilene days and the great people we've met there. This dude in particular is really unique because when we met him, he was on one side of the media, and now years later, he's on a completely different side. So, sometimes all it takes is a short, real quick chat to change a dynamic of someone in the media. And all it took for us, I invited him just randomly to play basketball with us. And look, not only is this guy a stone cold killer on the court, not only is he, but he turned out just to be a dude we could call a friend extremely quickly. We've seen each other, him and I have seen each other in the working capacity a couple of times over the years since I left Texas.
I haven't seen him since I left Abilene too. So this is a reunion on a different level for me too.
Fun fact, I'm not sure if you were there that night, Mike. This person and I once performed an Eminem song in an open mic in Abilene, Texas, which I'm sure we will take a trip down memory lane on that in a second. Look, he's gone from a talented sports writer at the Abilene Reporter News to a TV reporter in the southern part of the United States by way of Mississippi, now Memphis, Tennessee, born in Philadelphia, Delaware raised. On the playground was where he spent most of his days chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool. Probably shot some b-ball today outside at some school. I kind of messed that up, but anyway, without further ado, Jon Marshall. Welcome to Sports Amigos, dude. What's up?
I was not expecting the Fresh Prince situation there.
You basically are the Fresh Prince.
No fights, though. I didn't get into any fights as a kid. Well, a couple, but nothing too major. Nothing too major to get shipped off to Cali. But, I did play a lot of hoops. I am a killer on the court. I appreciate you respecting that and acknowledging that, Brandon.
We're gonna talk about the hooping that we did in Abilene. There was a lot of that.
A lot of people doubt the skills these days, but sometimes I got to remind people I could play a little bit.
It's good to see you, man. You're in Memphis, Tennessee now. What's the weather like in Memphis right now?
It's pretty chilly. I feel like I've gotten soft though, right? I'm from the Northeast, but being in the South for most of my adult life, once it hits 50, it's freezing for me now. Like, I don't even like. I'm wearing layers now, man. It's crazy, but
you're inside. You're inside wearing a sweater. I'm
inside wearing a sweater, man. Like I've gotten soft. It's crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jon, lot to talk about tonight. We always catch up with each guest that we have on in a variety of ways, and there's a lot of different places we can start. I guess let's start first, like before you even came to Abilene. Let's summarize that real quick. Born on the East Coast, Delaware is where you were raised. Take us through, growing up out in the East Coast and how you got yourself to be interested in the sports world and where you kind of kicked that off.
Wow. So, I mean, like any kid growing up who plays sports, you want to be a pro athlete, football, basketball, baseball, whatever. And that was the course I thought I was going to be on. I thought I was going to be the next MJ, AI or whatever. Basketball was my number one love. So that was my track. But I remember having a conversation with my mom in middle school, actually. She asked me about, what did I think about as far as a college major and a career? And I'm play ball. Like, what are you talking about, right?
Mom was asking you in middle school?
In middle school. Shout outs to moms.
Big shout out to mom. She was on
it.
For
sure. And I've never really thought about anything else besides playing sports, really, right? But she noticed how I would always gravitate towards Sports Center. I would read the sports section in the paper. I'm reading Sports Illustrated, Slam Magazine, all this stuff, right? Because I just love the game. I just love reading about sports and stories that were told. Never thought that it would actually be something that I could do. I never knew anybody on TV, never knew anybody in the newspaper industry. I didn't know even how that was even possible. But she put that little bug in my head. And ever since then, when I entered high school, of course, I played basketball, but I was also I wrote for the school paper. And slowly but surely, I developed a love for writing and storytelling. And ever since then, I knew that that was the track that I was going to get on. And funny thing, actually, when I was a kid in 1996, I fell in love with a guy by the name of Allen Iverson. You guys know me, you know I'm a fan of this guy, and
I've heard of him.
you heard of him. And so before school, every morning I would take a little VHS player and record Sports Center every morning to watch the highlights of AI. So when I got home from school, I would watch the morning Sports Center. Little did I know, I was pretty much preparing myself for what I'm doing today. And so went off to school, went to Lincoln University, a small HBCU in PA, and then I did a year at Syracuse.
Okay, so let's talk about college. So, what did you get out of college that really helped that bug of being interested in the sports writing, storytelling world? Because I mean, it ultimately your time in Lincoln ultimately led you to Syracuse, which I mean, come on, that's probably the best broadcasting school in the country.
Yeah,
I think we would all agree, if not one of the best, but probably the best. What
yeah.
what was it? What was it about college that helped you go from man, I'm interested in that to pursuing it?
So Lincoln is a HBCU in PA, and wasn't a lot of resources. Smaller school, and so mostly, honestly, throughout my 4 years, I didn't do anything TV wise. Um, I did a lot of radio for the campus radio station. I had a co-hosted a music show. Like I just dabbled in a whole bunch of things on campus. And then I wrote for the athletics website. I worked heavily in the sports information department. And so um, that's when really my true love for sports writing came about. Just wrote I just wrote everything. If it was basketball, soccer, whatever, I was the guy on campus to write about it. And what was so cool about it was because I was such a big fish in a small pond. So I didn't have to fight for assignments. Like if it was sports, it was me. And so
Yeah,
I
like
was
meaning
able to
like
really,
there wasn't a lot of people trying to do sports stuff. Like you kind of had the grasp on that
yeah,
world in your school.
right. So even in athletics, you go to a small school to play ball or whatever, you get a lot of chance to play. You don't have to compete against other top-notch guys to get on the field or the court or whatever. So for me, I was able to get playing time right away, right? That's the sort of
Yeah, get
analogy
those
pretty much.
reps, right?
And so I got so many reps. And during that time, a lot of my professors were trying to get me to take the PhD route and go to like Columbia and Penn State. I was a pretty smart student. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I was pretty intelligent. I
What
was
was your
pretty
GPA?
good.
Let's
But
brag
I said
about
it
that.
really wasn't in my heart. I really wanted to hone in on my broadcasting skills, which I wasn't able to get at Lincoln. And Syracuse was always a school that I knew was such a great
Yeah.
and storied broadcasting program. And so I applied there. I actually had to get on the waiting list for
Of
the
course,
grad program. So
everyone's trying to get in, right?
there were about 32. There were about 32 spots, and I was one of two people to take those last two spots.
Nice, man.
So I got to Syracuse, my first time ever, like really touching a camera, shooting my own video, editing, working with EMPS. All these things that are so normal in TV. This is my first time getting exposed to this, and it was pretty much a 1-year crash course. It was 4 years into 1 year, pretty much. So it was really an eye opener for me. It was something that was really beneficial, and so yeah, that was my experience at Syracuse.
We fast forward to Abilene. You've landed the job there, bright-eyed, green. You trying to get involved, just trying to make your mark, kind of thing. You spend some time there, you learn a lot, but then you do what really not a lot of people have done in the print broadcast world. You go from print and make the move to broadcast, and I'm really curious because that's that goes against the grain of what sort of happens in broadcast. uh, what sort of compelled you to say, I'm going to make the move not just to a different market, but move to a different platform?
Well, but when I finished school at Cuse, broadcasting was what I wanted to pursue,
Right.
and
So when you were
so
in Abilene, that was already something in your head.
yeah,
Like
for
I'm
sure,
doing print right now, but I would love to do TV at some point.
right, for sure. And so even I finished school in 2011. I didn't land my job in Abilene until 2013, and so the post school situation, the job search as far as getting in the field was pretty rough for me, and so but I always knew I had writing as something I can fall back on, and so the Abilene position was just, I applied on a whim pretty much. Like, I don't know I've never even been to Texas in my life. Let me just see what's going on with this. And that was a position that gave me the opportunity. So even throughout my years at Abilene, broadcasting was always in my heart. But I just never knew, as the years go by, you just never know when that opportunity is going to come, right? Because I had my demo reel was from 2011, right? So I look back at it now and I cringe that was even the reel that got me my first TV job. It's hard. I don't even know how that happened, because it's horrible. So,
Which, okay, and refresh our memory, 2011 is your reel. You're showing them at, what, 2016?
2016.
Right. Okay. So that's you're
It's
a
a
bit
long
younger
time.
at that point. Yeah.
Much younger. And
So I gotta ask, what were those conversations like when you're talking to the news director who hired you, anybody else who's interested after they see your reel? What are those conversations like when you fill them in that, I want to do broadcast, but I've been in print for a number of years?
yeah, well, I only had one conversation with the news director, and that was the Hattiesburg director. Like, no other TV station gave me a bite. And I was upfront with him, like, look, I haven't touched a camera since 2011. Haven't been on camera. I haven't read a teleprompter since 2011. So this is all pretty much foreign to me. But I kind of sold him on the fact that I'm able to adjust no matter where I'm at. I will adjust and I will get better. I will work to be the best. And it was a perfect storm pretty much. So let me flash forward to December of 2015.
Mhm.
And my guy Nick, who is the weather chief in Hattiesburg, we were classmates at Syracuse, and he hits me up and says, "John, we need a sports person pretty soon. You should apply."
Okay. So that was your first in right there. Like,
Right.
that's how you found out about the job in the first place.
Right.
That's a huge moment right there.
Yeah, and I was kind of hesitant because it's Mississippi. I've never been in that part of the deep South before. So, but I said, you know what, this might be my one opportunity to make this transition. So I applied. They actually flew me out, and everything went well. I thought, and then I come back to Abilene in December of 2015. I hear nothing. January comes, February comes, March, April, May, nothing at all. And so finally in June, when I'm getting an itch to move on. I had been at the paper for a few years, and I was really trying to figure out what's next for my life.
You've been dabbling at 3 years at this point.
Yeah, it was a minute, and so
I feel like 3 years is a good amount of time where it's like it's not short enough, but also long enough for you to be like, okay, I've kind of like I know what I'm doing out here. I kind of want to challenge myself somewhere else. Is that
right,
basically what it was?
That was exactly what it was. Whether it was print or TV, I wanted something new. And so in June of 2016, Nick, my friend from Syracuse, who's now at Hattiesburg, calls me up and says, both our sports people are gone. We need somebody now. You should reach out. You should reach out to my guy here in Hattiesburg. I'm like, I already interviewed with you guys. Like, I haven't heard anything. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I reached out again, and literally probably the next day, their news director hits me up and says, we need somebody ASAP. And we talked about everything, contracts and everything. I mean, the interview already happened months ago. So it was pretty much a formality that I would be the guy, because they needed somebody right then and there. And I got hired in July of 2016. I was in Hattiesburg, starting my TV career for the first time doing TV work since 2011. So you can imagine the rough transition for me.
Okay, so it's one thing to do interviews, holding a recorder, no cameras are on you, which you had been doing in Abilene for quite some time, got real comfortable doing that. What do you remember about the first time being live on TV in Hattiesburg? I imagine that was a moment you could remember.
If anybody has that footage, just burn it. I don't want anybody getting a hold of that.
We're gonna.
That's
find
the
it.
same. I think we can all say that.
I don't want to
Nah,
see it.
I'm
Actually,
kidding. We're not gonna do that.
Taylor Correct, who's at DAM now still.
Yeah.
We were together working, and
He's a
I
good
got
Twitter
hired
follow, I could tell.
for him. But I remember it was actually my first toss to him, and it was bad. Like, I was stumbling over my words. It was horrible, guys. I can't lie. It was
But
bad.
you get through the first one, and it wasn't good.
It wasn't good
Like,
at all.
and how much do you feel like you learned after that? Just that first moment. How much could you just breathe after that, moving forward, and just take baby steps at getting better?
Getting that first one out the way was important. Just being in front of that camera, it's totally different. Like, I was able, at the paper, nobody sees my face. I don't have to worry about my appearance. I mean, I don't have to worry about what I'm wearing. It's just so much easier. All I got to worry about are the words. But now on TV, I got to worry about, is my pacing right? How do I look? Like, am I smiling enough? It's just so many things that are going on in your head. And this is the first time I'm doing this in years. And also, I got there's no sports director. So it's just me. Before they hired Taylor, it was just me. And there was really nobody there to sort of guide me. I'm learning EMPS all over again, pretty much on the fly. I'm learning the editing system. I think it was Edius, I believe. I've never used that before. And so everything was just, like I said, there's no sports director to guide me on who to talk to. These are the coaches. These are the SIDs. I did this all myself, like reaching out to USM's SIDs and the junior colleges and setting up my own contact list. This is stuff that I'm learning on the fly, so that also made it challenging, not even having like a sports director already in place who knows the market, knows the contacts. So this was stuff that I was just on, like I said, on the fly. Everything was on the fly. So that made it even much more challenging for me, not having that veteran presence there at the station.
But aren't you so much more grateful for an experience like that where you had to just fly blind, say, screw it, let's do it, and you have no choice but to put the iron in the fire and really just sharpen it on your own?
Oh, for sure. I'm definitely grateful because like I said, it's those situations really show you who you are, and it forces you. Like I had no other choice. Like this is my one chance to get this TV thing right, and I had no other choice. And I definitely took on some skills that if I were to take on a leadership position down the road, I've proven that I can do that because I was able to do it in my initial first step in this TV industry without any help. So I'm definitely grateful. And actually, my experience working at the newspaper definitely helped me as far as just having my own beat and knowing who to contact as far as SIDs and developing these relationships with coaches, having a contact list. So my newspaper experience really kicked in when it came to that as well.
So you have now 3 times since going to Abilene to now, you've gone to 3 different states, 3 different markets,
Yeah.
and you've jumped in and learned a whole new area, a whole new, group of teams, everything that comes with that. So I'd love to get your input. What sort of advice would you give to young broadcasters that jump into a situation like that? Because you've done it 3 times now in a pretty short amount of time.
Yeah.
What worked for you as far as jumping in somewhere new and learning as much as you can in a short amount of time?
Stay well read as far as the local scene. The local newspaper really helped me out because that was where I came from, so I knew what to look for. Reaching out to your local SIDs when it comes to the colleges. Mm-hmm. Those are going to be that's your life support when it comes to just getting contacts and getting story ideas. The SIDs for your colleges, those are the MVPs. Shout outs to Chad Grubbs, for Hardin Simmons. I worked with closely out there, so
right.
he was helpful. And just taking it upon yourself to ingratiate yourselves with the coaches. Like, don't wait for anybody. Just send out emails, call these schools, like let them know who you are, what you're trying to do, and showing up. Like, let them know who you are, and if they see your face, they're gonna be comfortable with you. So just don't wait for anybody to hand you anything. Just go out and start introducing yourselves to these people. That's what I had no other choice, but that would be my advice to any young journalist.
Now that you're in Memphis, I mean, that's a completely different lane. It's a completely different speed. It's a completely different world. I know you have, the University in Memphis there that's really been an up and comer in sports, especially football. They're really starting to make some noise. Memphis basketball has been sort of up and down a little bit, but you also got the Grizzlies there too. Shout out Dylan Brooks. And
yes, Oregon.
Yeah, he's balling up there. But what's it like covering Memphis and Penny Hardaway and sort of that whole scene?
It's exciting, man. So I got here during Penny's first year. And so it's sort of like
right after you got there, he was hired?
It was a little bit before I think he got hired maybe in the spring, and I came in a couple months after that. So it was like,
I remember it was close.
Pretty much the same time. And so to be there for his first year, and Penny's like the favorite son of Memphis. He grew up here, he went to college here, went to the league, and he always came back and did so much for this community. And so to be able to experience that, Memphis is a passionate basketball city. And so it fits me because anybody I love, if you know me, you know I love hoops. And so this sort of was the perfect city for me in the perfect situation, being able to cover the Grizzlies and the Tigers. So that first year was wild, man. And then this past year with Jon Marshall coming, and that was a whole nother experience with the Grizzlies, so shocking everybody, and Josh just this rising star. I mean, it's from covering Hattiesburg, Mississippi sports to covering Memphis sports, man. It's definitely been a pleasure, man. So I've been enjoying this ride for sure.
When we talked to our old sports director Brian Keating back on the second episode of the show, we talked about what it's like going from a place like, and I assume Hattiesburg is like this too, but Abilene going to where he is now with Oklahoma City covering the Thunder, and you go from having the ability to develop relationships with coaches and some players in that to a place where it's a much more designated time frame, very small times cut out to talk to players and that. So what was sort of that biggest adjustment and most difficult adjustment going from a small market to more of a medium / larger I guess NBA college market?
More competitive market, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Definitely more competitive, because in Hattiesburg, we were pretty much the only station there, honestly. There was a Fox affiliate, but it was sort of a smaller operation. So, I mean, nobody really watched. They really mostly watched WDAM. And so, to answer your question, Mike, it's definitely more tape to go through. In Hattiesburg, I'm just used to reaching out to a coach and this is who I want to talk to. And they're like, okay, how can we, they're going to accommodate me. Even in Abilene with HSU, the team that I covered in Wiley High School, like, whatever story idea I had and wanted to do it, they were accommodating whatever player I wanted.
You guys were the only paper.
Exactly. So I would be able to get
same situation. Yeah.
Now in Memphis, it's different. Like, Penny's speaking at this time. It's the only time you can get them. John's speaking at this time. You better get here now, or you're not going to get them after the game, post game, pre-game. And outside of that, you're not getting these one-on-one opportunities. Even with the college guys, it's a set time, set place. You got to be there. You're not going to get it. So that's definitely be the one thing that I do miss about the smaller market. You can really, there's more opportunities to tell the stories that you want to tell on a college and a high school levels. But here, it's definitely tougher to get those stories for sure. Unless you have sources inside, unless you have an in on things.
But I know that a lot of fans and I grew up always thinking that, or with a coach that he is part of the public eye. Like he and his wife really do a good job of making themselves available within the community. I'm curious if there's anybody that jumps out to you that you could say that's a guy that, we only have this set opportunity of time, but he's still somebody that's relatable. He's still somebody that he remembers who you are. And if you see him in passing, they'll have a short, albeit brief conversation with you.
I've noticed that from two people. Penny's been that way. He's definitely a guy, if you see him in public, people will tell me, like, if you speak to Penny, he'll definitely be willing to speak to you. At press conferences, he'll notice certain people. So, I mean, there's definitely that friendly relationship between Penny and media. And Taylor Jenkins, the coach of the Grizzlies, he's been really good as far as, remembering, even no matter how long it's been since he's seen us, he knows our names. Like, he says, hey, Jonathan, hey, like he knows who you are. And so that always feels good, even though you may not have the direct access that you would want to have. He remembers the faces. So Coach Jenkins and Coach Hardaway have been two of the guys that have been really good with that.
So let's talk a little bit more about Memphis. Mike is in Tucson, Arizona now, where he's born and raised. He grew up in a city that is fanatic about their college basketball team. Would you say Memphis men's basketball is like the big ticket in town as far as like the team that everyone gravitates towards the most, or is it the Grizzlies?
This will always be a Tigers basketball town, I think. I would say the Grizzlies may have I wasn't here during that time, but during the grit and grind era with Marc Gasol, Zach Randolph, Tony Allen, Mike Conley, that was a special time for this city. And so I would say maybe during that era, the Grizzlies had a hold of this city. But other than that, this will always be. And even when I first moved here, people told me this is a Tigers basketball city. And getting Penny even, that even heightens that. You listen, even on the sports radio station out here, you're going to hear Tigers basketball every day. Even during the summertime with recruiting, it's Tigers basketball all the time. Like there's never a day that goes by, an hour, honestly, that I don't hear them mentioning Penny, the recruiting cycles, and what's going on with the team. So the Tigers will always be number one, I'll say. And that makes sense because, Memphis came over, the Grizzlies came over from Vancouver. So it's not, a lot of these people didn't grow up
Not
with
a
an
homegrown
NBA team
necessarily, right?
So this is still a young team for this city. So that makes sense why the Tigers, this is most people went to college. Most people who are here in Memphis went to school at U of M. So, they have that sense of pride, they have that connection. But I think Ja being here is slowly is raising the bar for the Grizzlies, I will say, because they lost a little bit of that after the grit and grind era. But those guys are still legends. Like people were sad to see Marc Gasol leave. They were sad to see Conley leave. Zebo is still a legend. Tony Allen, they love Tony Allen. Like those guys, they may have statues of those guys one day. That's how big these guys are. But Tigers basketball is where it's at, though.
So let me ask you this: where does the Memphis basketball fan base rank on the basketball IQ level? Because there are a lot of places like some towns like say they know basketball.
Yeah.
Some towns say, we know what's up, and they know absolutely nothing about in the moment games play.
X's and
And
O's.
the X's and O's, the game situations. Where does Memphis rank?
I mean, they're up there. They're definitely up there. I mean, even from the high school level to the college to the pro level, the fans are definitely knowledgeable. I mean, obviously you have your bad apples to where they don't know anything, as you say.
Everybody does.
That's any fan base. People make fun of the Philly sports fan base.
But that's the yin and yang of it. You can't. Yeah, you got to have the good. You got to have the bad. Yeah.
So I mean, even I'll give him credit for this. Penny he's the favorite son here of Memphis.
Right.
But the grand scheme of things, his teams haven't performed at the level of expectations that people had. You have the top recruiting class last year. I know Wiseman wasn't playing, but still, you had Precious Achua, who was a first-round pick. You have DJ Jeff, you have some of the top freshman guys. And even this year, they're not playing as expected. And the fan base, they're actually, rightfully so, they're critiquing Penny. They're critiquing his coaching, his in-game adjustments, like his lineups, because these are things that any non-Memphis person is going to look and see and say, what is Penny, what's going on out there? He has the guys. These guys aren't developing like we thought they would. There's no cohesive system. And so this is the critiques that I'm seeing from the Memphis fans, especially so far this year. And so that to me shows me that they're not getting blinded by, Penny, and he's a great guy. He's Memphis legend, but we still have to look at this thing, critique this thing as an astute basketball fan. And so that to me stands out as a fan base that's really knowledgeable. Like they're really critiquing Penny's coaching.
It's not a honeymoon phase anymore.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah. And you got to respect it,
So I want to pivot over to some personal stuff. So just about everyone we've had on, maybe with the exception of one person, is living the family life, got kids, married, still single, right?
Yes, I'm single.
So let me ask you this.
So, hey, ladies in Memphis.
Let's talk about this a little bit, because this is important. I think not only in broadcasting, maybe in any field. Someone jumping around the country, chasing your dream, and you've been single this whole time. So from a personal angle here, what has worked for you juggling what is a very demanding career? Let's face it. I mean, especially once you got, not to knock on newspaper, there's challenges and there's, deadlines you got to meet at tough times from the end of games to your deadline. But TV is a whole nother beast that demands, especially to be good at it, and especially in Memphis, you got to be 24/7, 365, paying attention to all the little things. What has worked for you, balancing your professional career and finding things outside of work that work for you, to satisfy living a fun life, so to speak, you know what I mean? Because you imagine you had to make a whole new circle of friends each place you've gone. You didn't know anybody, right? going to Abilene, Hattiesburg, Memphis. Well, maybe one person in Hattiesburg, right? You said
One
you have
person,
a buddy
one
from college.
person from Hattiesburg who actually works with me now. So that helped with my transition here to Memphis.
That's great. Yeah. So what has worked for you balancing your personal life, and the things you're up to there, whether it be playing basketball, making friends, the dating life?
Mhm.
What has worked for you in being single throughout all this whole time?
What has worked for me? I'm still trying to figure that out. Honestly, I mean, as it may be the same for you guys, as you find like a lot of my friends who I hang out with are people who I've worked with, who I work with. You're spending all these time with these people, so you're naturally going to develop that relationship, that connection with these people. So even in Hattiesburg, most of the people I hung out with in Hattiesburg were my coworkers. We were all around the same age, same stories, just trying to, elevate in this industry. And so we sort of related to each other. We understood the demands of our careers and what we were trying to do and just our schedule, because our schedule was, as you guys know, holidays, you're working holidays, you're working at regular hours, you're working on weekends. Actually, when I was in Abilene, I was off. My off days were Sunday and Wednesday. So even that was sort of
split weekend. That's tough.
Crazy. So I'm not, as far as like a weekend trip, it's not happening. So not having weekends off. That's tough when some of your friends who aren't in this industry are out enjoying a weekend, you're at a game. And so I find that most of my time has been spent with people that are in the same industry as me and have the same type of schedule. Because it's tough. Not a lot of people understand it. A lot of my friends who aren't in this field, they're able to enjoy certain luxuries of life, spending time with family and friends. And I've gotten better with finding that balance when it comes to off the work stuff and making sure that when I'm off work, I've been intentional of being off work. Like I'm putting my work phone away. I'm not trying to be on Twitter as much, even though it's tough, but I try to limit my social media experiences off work. And it's an adjustment. It's definitely not easy as somebody who constantly has to be wired in. As you say, you have to be on top of these things, Even on my off days, I find myself thinking about story ideas and who I need to reach out to. And so it's all about finding that balance. And I'm finally finding that balance. I've dated here and there. I don't think my career has gotten in the way of my relationship life. Actually, I dated somebody last year who's actually in the same industry. And so I think that opened my eyes up to maybe I could actually, if I were to have a serious relationship again, somebody who's actually in the same industry could work because they understand my life. They understand the schedule. There wouldn't be any conflicts. Like if I say I have to be somewhere at 10 p.m., they're not going to ask questions like, what do you mean? Where are you going? Like they really know, like I have to be on TV at 10. Like this is just what it is. So that's what I would say, just finding that balance and, finding somebody who understands your schedule, because not everybody understands it. It's tough. It's not normal.
I want to jump a little further north. I know you're a major Philadelphia sports scene fan.
Yes, sir.
Get it.
And
let's get it.
I gotta ask you, Eagles.
Oh man,
not doing so well. How you holding up, buddy?
To be the worst team record-wise in the worst division isn't a title I want to have.
After basketball, like the Eagles are like a huge love of yours, right? It's like the Sixers and the Eagles, right?
Definitely, for sure. I mean,
because
the Eagles up there.
You had some great battles while living in Texas with all the Cowboy fans. I know I saw on Twitter alone lots of great back and forth Eagles and Cowboy stuff.
I was in enemy territory, guys. I remember one day I was at the Buffalo Wild Wings. It was an Eagles Cowboys game. I'm wearing my Eagles gear. All nothing but stars around me, man.
The one in
You
Abilene?
brought it on yourself.
I did.
You brought that upon yourself.
I had to rep though, man. I had to show them that, look, I'm here. Like I got a rep for my team. I had to do it.
You're not fake. I love that about you. You're not fake. Yeah, like going
I'm
with
here.
your Eagle stuff.
Yeah.
And they trolled me, but I knew not to get too crazy because I was outnumbered. It was just me. So there was a game that we lost, and I had to take that walk by myself with my Eagles gear, and I took it. I took it like a champ. But that was always funny to me. Like a lot of my friends from Texas, of course, are Cowboys fans, and so that's always been like a cool back and forth that we've had. So it's kind of funny that this major Eagles fan ended up being in Cowboys country, and
If
so
you're
uh,
if you're walking down the street and you see Nick Foles just strolling down on the sidewalk coming up to you, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I'm gonna go up, hug you, and tell you how much you mean to me.
yeah.
Where does Nick Foles fall on
Oh
the
man,
hugometer?
next giving a 10, he's definitely getting a hug, bear hug, man. Like all day, man. Like you
With a
want
mask.
I'll buy you a meal with the mask. I'll buy you a meal. Matter of fact, like what you want, anything you want, dessert, whatever you want off the menu. Like Nick,
Drinks on the house.
Nick can do no wrong in my eyes, man. Like he's the one thing as an Eagles fan that Cowboys fans always use against us. You never won a Super Bowl, and we finally did it. I
Right.
finally have that card to play.
Yeah.
And so for Nick to do that for the city, I don't care about anything else. We did it. They can't take that away. I know it's a trash year. It's a bad year, but they can't take 2017 away. They cannot take the Philly special away.
The Philly special. I was just
There
going
it
to
is.
say that.
I was waiting for that drop.
We were all waiting for it.
They can't take the Philly special away, man. And I'm gonna hold on to that forever. I don't care how bad it gets. I got the Super Bowl. I got the Super Bowl
Tom Brady
DVD.
too.
I might watch it tonight.
Nice. Mike, do you think it's time for the lightning round?
I'm thinking so.
The lightning round.
10 questions, not necessarily very fast, because we've gotten some really good stories and some really good back and forth off of stuff like this.
Okay.
But we're just going to sort of fire them off at you.
Okay.
And there's, we just have a lot of fun with this. So,
Okay.
So here we go. We'll start off with this. Favorite Abilene restaurant that you miss?
Wow. Fuzzy, was it Fuzzy this time?
Yes.
Oh, I don't think I went there all that often or
I like
at
Fuzzies.
all.
Yeah, Fuzzies.
Okay.
Fuzzies. I went to Fuzzies frequently. No, I miss Whataburger though.
That's
really?
That's just Texas in general.
Texas in general. As far as Texas in general,
none in Mississippi?
There's one in Jackson.
Okay. And then what about Tennessee?
There's none.
Okay.
But as far as Whataburger was in my spot, but Fuzzies in Abilene for sure.
Okay.
We got lucky in Tucson. I think we have like 1 or 2 out here. And every once in a while, my wife, being the Texan that she is, I'm getting Whataburger. And she's off.
It was the honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich. I was like, what is this? Like, I'm surprised it didn't gain any weight. I was there almost every week, man.
Yeah, you did stay pretty thin out there, man. It's not fair.
It was bad. It was bad.
The ballin'.
It's
all the ballin'. Okay. This is not limited to any one thing. So just let us know. Favorite Abilene sports memory?
Man.
You saw some cool stuff.
Yeah, you did.
Wiley and Harden Simmons. Two come to mind, but I got to narrow it down to one.
Okay.
Give us your 1A and then tell us your one.
You can say 2.
1A was when Harden Simmons football finally beat Hardin Baylor.
Oh, Mary Hardin Baylor.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice.
And
that's a good one.
The fans went out into the field. I mean, it's D3 football, but they stormed the field. It was crazy. And for those who don't know D3 football, Mary Hardin Baylor is like top 3 every year in national championships.
Not that long ago.
And Hardin Simmons was always just right underneath them. And so for
shout out Jesse Burleson, man, Coach Burleson.
Yeah, he's done a great job with that program. So that was a great moment for sure. That was a great moment. And 1B would probably be Wiley High School winning the baseball state championship. That was fun.
Oh, cool.
That was a fun. And Coach Clay Martin, he's one of the best coaches I've covered. To see him win that championship was really fun. That was really fun.
Love Coach Martin.
Better barbecue scene, Memphis or Texas?
This is gonna get me destroyed.
You can't please everyone with this answer. This is the mean one. He's really struggling with this.
Because they're both passionate about their barbecue.
Yep.
I actually made a snide remark to one of my coworkers and said Texas is better, and she got on me about it.
Is she a Memphis native?
Yeah, she's from the area.
You're right.
You know what? I'm just looking back on both experiences and what I've enjoyed the most. I've enjoyed Texas the most, I would say.
Okay.
No,
But
Memphis is dope.
But what was it in Texas that you loved, barbecue wise? Brisket seems to be like the big one in Texas.
Yeah, for sure. The brisket is a big deal. I don't know, man. It just tasted better to me. I don't know. I enjoyed it.
That would have been funny if you said Mississippi.
Oh no. No.
Sorry, Mississippi.
Sorry, Hattiesburg. Okay, since we know you are a lover of all things basketball.
Oh, for sure.
When you're out, you're playing, you're running the court, what is your go-to hoops move?
My go-to hoops move, man. I like the spin. I like the spin move. Ooh. I do. And I've perfected. I got a little Dirk fadeaway too. Little mini,
no kidding. With the leg kick.
I'm developing it. In my older years, Mike, you got to find ways to score. You got to find different ways. You can't just rely on your athleticism, man. So I'm finding different ways to score, man. I'm more crafty these days.
John, were you playing much in Abilene before you started playing with us?
Yeah, I was in Abilene. I played with a group of guys early in the morning, like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. They would hoop at a local middle school, and I would hoop faithfully with those guys. So yeah, even in Hattiesburg, I didn't do it as much, but once I got to Memphis, I got back to it as well. Almost every Saturday mornings we would hoop.
Good.
And obviously that's put to an end right now because of COVID. So that's one thing I do miss, but hooping has always been a major part. And so I'm ready to get back out there actually.
Philly Sixers flavor. Let's can only pick one. Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid.
If you could keep one on the Sixers, like if one was which one would you keep? Which one would you not want to be traded? Right? Is that where we're going?
You guys asked some tough questions tonight. If Embiid is guaranteed to be healthy for the next 10 years, I would pick Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
Simmons frustrates me so much.
I like that.
Because I see so much talent,
right?
And yet you fail to really capitalize on it. And we know what his issue is. He doesn't want to shoot.
Is that really it with him? Like, is it just get a steady jump shot? Is that all that's really missing?
That's the only thing. And it's not even being a good shooter. He doesn't even want to shoot. At least with Giannis, some guys.
There's no aggression. Yeah.
There's no aggression. And so you're making it easier on the defense. You're just letting them off. But defense, he was all defensive performer. Like, he's a great player. As far as distributing, he's one of the best, 6'10".
Right. Amazing
there's so
passer.
many guys who possess those skills at that size. If you develop an offensive game, who knows how good you can be? Who knows? But that's what's holding him back. And so that's why I pick Embiid, because I think when Embiid's focused, when he's in shape, when he's healthy, I think he's the most talented big man. When he's focused and in shape, in which he hasn't been all the time.
Keeping with the Sixers, and I'll sort of mark the time frame from like the early 90s to now.
Okay.
Where does Allen Iverson land on your all-time ranking?
Of the Sixers? Man, I'm biased.
No. NBA.
Oh, NBA.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is different. Yeah, okay. I like this. I didn't know about this one.
Is this a personal or just unbiased?
Because you have, I know you got your steps. Give it to us either way. Give it to us.
Give it to us as a media guy. Give it to us as a media.
Okay.
Am I doing like a starting five, like a traditional lineup, like point guard, shooting guard?
No. Let's not go there because we got
all-time best players. Are we doing that?
All time best.
Okay.
All-time best between the early 90s to now. I got to think about this.
Well, because you're only really leaving, like, as far as like the most highly regarded.
Because Mike's in there, right? Because it's not.
Oh yeah, of course. But I'm saying, like, are we really leaving out like the guys from the '80s, like Bird, Magic, Isaiah Thomas? Are we leaving out, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, people like that? Why don't we just go all time? Period.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll amend the question. So let's go. Where does Allen Iverson land all time across the span of the NBA life?
Pound for pound.
Pound for pound. Pound for pound, to me, AI is easily top 20.
I would have thought you would go higher.
He's easily top 20 for me.
Okay. That's a pretty.
I would say 15. I would say top 15. I would say top 15.
Mm-hmm.
He's top 15.
I could go with that.
He's
Yeah,
top
I would have
15.
thought you said because like
Okay.
I know how much you love him. You've already talked
I like
about how
that.
much you
I
love
know
him.
I
like
love
that.
AI.
Being
He's my favorite player of all time. But
Right.
you know, I'm aware of the Kareems and the Russells. Like I know, and the championship thing is always I weigh that heavily as well, honestly. So,
Whether that's
top
fair or
15.
not, it is a factor.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
top 15. Top 15.
Yeah.
I've never actually thought about that because he's always been the number one guy for me, but I've never really considered where I would put him in the grand scheme of things. That's a really good question. So, but top 15 for me. I'll say top 15.
All right. I want you to explain your work a little bit here. Better NBA era, 90s or 2010s?
I say the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Everything was better than the 90s.
And
Yeah.
I just think
Period. Everything was better. Basketball,
just think-
music, you know? Like,
it was just, I mean, MJ was just the face of that era. And everything about the 90s is associated with the Bulls. And that's when I fell in love with the game. So I will always have that feeling toward 90s basketball. You know, I mean,
right.
AI, Kobe and these guys came in toward the latter part, and that they're still a part of that era.
They were in between it. Right.
In between eras. That was sort of the bridge.
Yes.
Charles Barkley's, the Sean Kemp. I love Sean Kemp. Penny Hardaway. You know, these are iconic guys.
Right.
And I'm a sneaker fan, so I think that was the golden era of sneakers too. Like everything about the basketball culture in the 90s was just so much better. The gear, like what players wore, the sneakers, like everything, that was just a special time. Even with hip hop and how everything came together for that culture, like I all related back to basketball. And so the 90s, the 90s, not even close.
You brought up the sneaker game, and it doesn't take long to do a dive on your social media before we find your shoes and how much you love your shoes. I know you are a collector of shoes.
I am.
And Brandon makes sure that we show some pictures of his shoe collection. So this next one, favorite shoes to wear when you're out on the town, and favorite shoes to wear when you're on the court.
On the court,
Yeah.
these are the best basketball shoes I've ever played in my life. Most comfortable shoes. I know they call them playoff P now. But these are the Paul Georges.
Really? Paul George? Okay.
I'm walking on clouds in these things. Like they're very comfortable. I don't know how he was so trash on the court because these shoes are amazing. Like it's not the shoes. You can't blame the shoes because these shoes I put them on against any other basketball performance shoe. And what's crazy was I've just transitioned into the low top basketball. I could talk about sneaks all day, but I've just transitioned into the low top sneaker, and I can't go back to high tops, man. It's something about it. Like it's a special feeling. So the Paul George sneaker line, I stand by it. Even though I don't stand by his performance in the playoffs, I stand by his sneakers. Nice. My favorite shoe to wear out in the town is easy. AI's first shoe ever, the Reebok Questions. I have about 4 pair of those. So yeah, it's not even a question. The classic red toe, the suede red toe. It's iconic, man. Like I have 2 pairs of the red ones, the original shoes. I have a Georgetown colorway. Then they did a special edition where one side is red and the other side is blue. So I have 4 pairs of Questions.
How many pairs of shoes do you have?
I don't even know. I got boxes stacked.
100?
And I got some in my closet. I ordered a pair yesterday too. So I don't know.
You got 100?
I couldn't even tell you, honestly. Because
over or under? What do you think? It's
under 100. It's under. I'm not at 100 yet. I'm approaching though.
But you're getting there.
I'm getting there. I love it. I just love it, man. I look back on my statements. I'm like, man, I'm spending this. Somebody has to stop me, but I can't help it.
You could have bought a car or a house.
That's what I'm saying, man. But I can't help it. I wear my sneakers with my suits too on air too. So that's a special.
Oh, you have to. Oh, you have to.
So
yeah.
I love the Jordan line too. That's a staple. I don't have any Adidas in my closet. Only Nike, Jordan, and Reebok, and Puma too.
This has become a staple of the lightning round. Something we ask everybody we bring on the show. What is your favorite movie that you are absolutely ashamed to admit?
Guilty pleasure. Yeah.
Ashamed to admit?
Yeah.
Wow. Ashamed to admit. You know what? I feel like it's a really good movie. I enjoy 500 Days of Summer.
Dude, no, that's a really good movie.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how it may come across for some guys. You know, I don't know, but I feel like it's a good movie.
No, Mike, I would say that's the best movie anyone's said for this question. That's like not even remotely a bad movie. What do you think, Mike?
Okay.
I have to remove myself from that because that is one that I have not seen yet, and dog me all you want for it. I will add it to the list. That's one I have not.
Okay.
That was the movie that brought Joseph Gordon-Levitt back.
Yeah,
like officially.
It was a good movie.
That was a really good movie.
Because I really don't do the romantic comedy movies, so it was something that
is that why it's more of a guilty pleasure?
Exactly.
Department for you because you don't watch all the rom-coms.
Exactly. That's exactly why.
Okay, I get it now.
I could have said like a Nicolas Cage movie. That'd have been easy.
That's an easy one.
Ghost Rider.
That would be a guilty pleasure.
Okay, this one is I kind of like to add something that's a little bit heavier from time to time, and I think this one is really relevant in our current atmosphere. But what do you think journalism needs right now? There's a lot going on. The public perception of journalism versus what is trying to be put out there. But what do you think journalism really needs?
A couple of things come to mind. I think there needs to be more openness to different creative ideas and how we're producing content and broadcasting the content. You know, the traditional sitting at home at 5 o'clock and watching the news is not happening. So how do we grab the viewer, especially if you're trying to grab our age group, you know, the 25 to 45 age, whatever age range you're trying to grab? What are we doing? I was talking to a fellow friend who's in the industry. I'm like, why haven't more TV stations jumped into the podcasting lane and explored that world? Just different avenues, different ways of storytelling. And that's the biggest thing, just being more creative with it. That's what I would say. Another thing is just diversity and leadership. I feel like anytime you have diversity, you have different ideas, you have more understanding, you're able to better cover these situations, especially in a time like this.
Right.
You're able to effectively tell these stories and cover these events. So diversity in newsroom leadership is a big thing that I've noticed just in my few years here in TV. So that needs to be changed as well.
I like that.
I love it, man.
Next time we get you on, I want to dive into more stuff like this next time we have the chance to have you on.
Oh, for sure.
So that typically is where the lightning round would end. But being there's so much to ask you, we have to dish up the first ever bonus question.
Bonus question, man.
And
okay,
we go big sometimes with our dearest friends. Brandon, you had this one in mind particularly. I'm going to hand the torch off to you and let you ask the bonus question.
Yes, thank you, Mike. This is specific for you, John, because you are easily the biggest hoop head we've had on to this point.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah.
But this is specific for you because you consider yourself a voter into the Still in the League Hall of Fame. So who right now in 2020, going into the 2021 season in the NBA, who is your starting lineup for the Still in the League Hall of Fame players that are still going in the NBA?
That's a good question.
Thank
All
you.
right. I think Udonis Haslem's still in the league. I think he is.
Yeah, technically. So that's your 4. And actually, let's preface this. Why don't you preface this by explaining what this means, Still in the League Hall of Fame, for anyone that's watching that has no idea what we're talking about.
It happens all the time. You're watching a game, whether it could be football, basketball, whatever. A name pops up. He's still in the league? Like, I didn't know Colt McCoy. I didn't know where Colt McCoy was. He's still in the league.
He's still in the league. That's a good NFL one. Yeah,
the Jeff Garcias of the world, those types. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain guys
that have hung around a long time.
Like, he's still getting a check out here, and so we always have that thought. We always have that thought in our head when we're watching TV. Like,
in all sports.
Yeah, like he's still doing it, and so that's been like a running thing for me on Twitter, and I'm definitely a Hall of Fame.
Still, we're honing in on the NBA for this question. So, Udonis Haslem is your starting power forward?
He'd be my 4.
Okay, he's your 4.
We're doing this position-wise. This is going to be tough. Okay.
Yeah.
I think
making
JJ
it- I'm making
Barea
it
is still in the league. Is JJ Barea?
Oh, he is. Mavericks.
Shockingly.
Oh, he's back with them. Wow.
That's
Mike
the
and I
point
saw him
guard.
play live in Dallas a long time ago.
Oh, we did.
We did, yeah. That was
Yeah.
8 years ago, and he was old.
I'm telling you, man. Who would be my 2 guard? Wow, these are good questions.
So Barea is your 1.
Barea's my 1.
Okay, we got 2. Okay.
Haslam's my 4.
Okay, this is good so
Man,
far.
This is actually a fun exercise. Who would be my? I'm trying to think of a wing player who is shockingly still in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, I think Andre Iguodala is teetering on that line. He's almost there for me, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like he's a couple years away from being.
He's a couple years away
from like certified still in the league.
He's a couple years away.
But
He's teetering.
It wasn't that long ago. Yeah, where he was finals MVP. Yeah,
he's teetering.
But would you think that if he was still with the Warriors, would you have him sort of in that category if he was still in San Fran?
No, I definitely would.
And he's only been gone for a year.
So. Yeah, he's been gone for a year. He's been gone for a year.
So, but he'll be there soon.
Jared Dudley.
Okay.
Oh man.
Still in the league. Okay. Champion though, respect it. He's a champion.
World champ.
So Dudley would be my 3.
And Iggy's your 2.
Iggy's my 2.
Okay, so all you need is a big man. This is pretty tough too.
This is tough.
Because it's an extinct position.
It is.
To an extent.
I'm going through my mental Rolodex, so mind me for the time.
I almost wanted to tell Mike, that this was coming ahead of time because I knew how tough this would be. But it's really fun watching him struggle, and like, you're taking it serious too. And
this is really my thing. When I'm watching the game, I'm like, yo, dude is still out here. He shouldn't be out there. Maybe I don't want to be disrespectful to Iggy. But I'm trying to find somebody to fill that spot. He's the closest thing that came to my mind. So,
is Zaza Pachulia still in the league? I don't think he is.
I'm not sure. But if he is, that'd be a good name, actually.
Yeah, I think he's been out for a second.
He might be out of the
So maybe then you slide Iggy into your 6 man.
He's my 6 man.
If that's the case.
But in a couple of years, I'm going to start looking at Iggy like, okay, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? So I got Jared Dudley, Udonis, JJ Barea. Nick Collison retired recently, so I can't use him.
No, he's out. Yeah.
He's done. The big man is so extinct, so it's not many of those big men guys who are like, why are you out here?
Zaza is working in the front office of the Warriors, so he's not
I figured
in the
he wasn't. But that would have been a perfect name.
Right.
Perfect name. I'm trying to think of like horrible teams, like the Knicks. The Knicks have somebody. I think. This big man, I can't think of a big man. I really can't think of a 5 man.
There's not a lot left.
It's not a lot left.
There's not that many left, and the ones that are in are
they're pretty much good, and they're on the younger end. So, but I think
still pretty good. Yeah.
I think Udonis Haslem is the poster. He's the poster child for still in the league. I know he's got to be 40, 41. Vince Carter retired recently. He definitely would have been in my starting 5.
Okay, so Vince would have made the Still in the League Hall of Fame.
Still in the League Hall of Fame.
Because he just retired this past year.
Yeah, he would have made it. If he was entering this campaign, he would have made it.
And it's like it's such a disservice to how good he was.
Oh, for sure.
Prime, to say that, but that's what the Still in the League is. It's like, you were great at one point, but it's like it's time to hang it up.
He got drafted in like what, 98? I mean,
like that.
He's still playing, and this era he's the last from that era. But some names to look forward to are who are entering Hall of Fame candidacy. Trevor Ariza is entering that lane. CJ Miles, JaVale McGee. I think Marvin Williams. I'm gonna give Marvin Williams a couple more years.
Really? I would put him in it.
You would put him in now?
I would.
You would?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, let's put Marvin. Let's put Marvin in the 5.
Because Marvin and Bogut were 1 and 2 in that draft.
And that's the name that you forget about. So we got JJ Barea, we got Iggy, CJ, Udonis, and Marvin Williams. That's the starting 5 entering this season. Now, when you watch these games, there'll be some names that pop up. You're like, wow, I had no idea. And so you'll see me tweet out such and such is still in the league. Like, so.
That's been one of my favorite things about following you on social media is all the still in the league references and things you point out. So it was only fitting we would have still in the league in this episode.
It's a lot of those guys.
It had to be in it.
It's a lot of those guys at the quarterback position too that you don't even know in the NFL. Like, so just pay attention. Colt McCoy is one of them. I didn't know. I had no idea. Mike Glennon. I had no idea.
Yeah. Colt McCoy. Yeah.
Okay.
Good to get Colt McCoy, the big country in here.
I'm going to give you a Colt McCoy NBA comparison. A dude who was picked really high and has basically been a backup his entire career. Jared Bayless is still in the league.
Wow.
Oh, dude, that's a good one.
That's a good name. That's a good name, Mike.
One. If not for Berea, because Berea is a bit older.
Yeah.
If not for him, Jared would be in
there. That's not, I forgot all about him.
Yeah.
If you forget about a guy, most likely he's in there. He's in that lane. That's a good one.
He's the perfect Colt McCoy comparison when you look NFL to NBA. A dude who was picked super high, because I think Jared was a lottery pick.
Yeah.
And then he just ended up fizzling out of like stardom and turned into a dude who was just pushed off from one team to another.
Did he go to Texas too?
Arizona.
Okay. Arizona.
That's why Mike knows he's a Wildcat.
I'm thinking of DJ Augustine. Okay.
Ooh, Fringe still in the league. Yeah. Fringe on DJ.
He's fringe,
but he's getting there. He's
getting like, there's a few guys.
Been on a lot of teams.
They're getting there. I don't know. Marvin Williams is like, he's definitely on there now.
I put him in there. Yeah, I put him in there.
He's on there. There's man, I'm pretty sure I could have had a couple more guys. I just thinking on the fly on this one is so hard. It's just so difficult because these are guys that you don't think about.
No,
it just happens while you're watching a highlight or a game. Right. Like Alfred Morris with the Giants. I had no clue. No clue.
Hey, Frank Gore's still playing.
That's what I'm saying.
Good one. Yeah.
He has a son that
Adrian Peterson.
Frank Gore has a son that plays for Southern Miss. How old do you feel?
Dude.
Frank Gore Jr.
He?
Frank Gore Jr. Yep.
Wow. He might pull LeBron and play with his son. That's what LeBron's trying to do in a couple years with Bronny.
Yeah, he's still getting touchdowns. I mean, but yeah, I challenge you guys throughout this NBA season to come up with some names for me.
And that's my challenge. And we have to tag you every time.
Please do it.
You have to be mentioned.
Please.
Hey, I think Mike and I definitely didn't want to end the show without talking to you about something else. Now that the lightning round is officially over, man, you've been working in sports for a bit and now working in news. You're working in news in arguably the strangest year maybe ever in our lifetime. Yeah. For sure, the strangest year from January to now. There's been some stuff happening this year, and now we're in the COVID era. Tell us about being a news reporter in the COVID era, be it working at home, wearing a mask everywhere you go, social distancing, and trying to storytell and make connections with people from afar. I mean, that's got to be a challenge.
I mean, it's a challenge for everybody, right? Just trying to navigate this. But for us, trying to get the information out there and tell these stories, it's definitely different. This is my first full time doing this thing. And for it to be this year, it's like, wow, okay. And so the biggest thing is coming up with story ideas with COVID, because I feel like I've told the same story over and over and over when it comes to restrictions and the vaccine and cases with high schools and teams, and it's just the same thing every single day. And that's just the main challenge of trying to be creative, even though it's the same subject, just different people talking about it. And that's been the biggest challenge. Even earlier this year, we had a lot of protests in Memphis, and so I was one of the main reporters out there, and I was out there on one night where it really got bad. I mean, there was police with riot gear, and I got tear gas in my eyes covering these protests. I've had guns pointed at me covering these protests. And so it's just been a mentally exhausting year covering all. It's like social unrest, a pandemic. It's just so much. An election year, it's just so much that you have to deal with. So mentally, it's been a trying time for a lot of people. I know it, especially in my industry. Talking to my coworkers, like, having your own alone time is even more so important now. Like I said, getting off of social media, really just taking time to myself, not even watching the news. I know we try to stay abreast of what's going on, but I've been intentional, really, especially this year, to not read anything COVID related, protest related, election related. Let me just, when I'm on the clock, I'm focused in on that. But off the clock, I need to unwind. I can't do this every day. It's just
It's
a lot.
healthy. It's healthy to do that.
It's a lot, man. So it's been challenging. The challenging thing for me is coming up with COVID story ideas, because it's just, how can I tell this? How can I tell it differently today? And my news director, that's what they want. They want, obviously, COVID is the biggest thing going on. So how do I tell the same struggling business story for the 10th time? How do I do that? And so that's been the biggest adjustment for me. Working from home, I actually don't mind it. It's, it's comfortable. I can rock my sweats and just be comfortable. So I don't mind it, actually. But when you go out, of course, I'm around different people every day, and being in that protest, there were hundreds of people. I don't even know if I may have come across somebody who had COVID, because not everybody was wearing their mask.
Right.
So it's just, you're putting your health on the line, covering these events. So it's been a lot, though. I'm not gonna lie. It's definitely been a challenge, but we're doing the best we can.
I got another one on that note. You mentioned covering COVID's been a challenge. Sounds like that was the most mentally challenging thing for you to do. Now, what's been the most uncomfortable thing to cover? You mentioned protests. You mentioned the election. Jumping into the news world. Now, I gotta be honest. If I was asked to jump into the news world, I may have gone into another career. I'm not a news guy.
Yeah.
Certainly not political.
Right.
And it's a whole nother world to go from sports to news, especially this time of our lives. So what would you say has been the most uncomfortable thing to cover, at least maybe in the early stage of covering it? I'm sure you got used to it after. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned, man, protests, election year, COVID-19. Yeah, what really tested your comfort level?
In the beginning, I was tested every day, because I'm being asked to cover topics that I know nothing about: politics, local economy. Like, I pretty much asked to be an expert on something new every day. And so for somebody like you guys, I've been sports my whole life, and jumping into news full time, pretty much, that was uncomfortable, because I don't want to sound like a fool on air, right? And so I really had to I'm doing more research than I've ever done. With sports, it's second nature. You know the players, you know the terminology, like, you know what you're talking about, right? With news, it was a totally different mindset. I actually have to learn about these different topics now, and really dive deep into them. So that was the most uncomfortable situation, asking to be a medical expert on the whim. This is what you want. It's 2:00. This is your story. Find somebody to talk to and get it done. Not having these news sources, these news connections that my colleagues already had. I was, once again, like, I was in Hattiesburg, starting from the ground up in news, starting from the ground up again. I pretty much was pushed out into the deep end. It says swim. Find your news sources. And so I've had to find my way in that lane now as well. So that's been the most uncomfortable thing, just trying to be an expert on these news topics and trying to find these sources and develop these connections. It's been a totally different world. And so I don't have a grasp on it yet. I'm learning every day. I've actually had an opportunity to anchor the news too. So that's been a whole new world as well. So
That's big, man. Congrats on that. And they don't offer everybody that stuff. That's good stuff, man.
It was random how they asked me too. Like, it was my first month in, and they tell me Ernie's our morning show anchor, and one of our EPs talked to me and said, "Hey, Ernie's gonna be off tomorrow. Can you anchor the morning show?" And I'm like,
not only a show, the morning show. You got a
5-hour show.
Before the crack of dawn.
And this was the previous night.
I hated the morning show. The morning show was the worst.
Yeah. It's horrible.
Just thinking about it.
This was the previous evening that he's telling me this. So I'm doing the math in my head. How much sleep am I going to get tonight? So
none.
None, pretty much none.
No.
Of course, I'm not going to say no. It's an opportunity.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, you sure? I'm like, you sure about this? I've never done this in my life. It's going to be trash. Just want you to know this, but sure. Your decision. It's your decision, not me. Right. And so I did it. I was nervous as heck. Val, she was the female anchor. She was great. And ever since then, I've been the fill-in guy. So I actually enjoy news anchoring more so than reporting. I actually enjoy being in the studio and presenting the news. I like that element, but being in the news, being in the field, that's still an adjustment for me. Like just covering. The other day, I had to talk to the family of an 8-year-old girl who got shot and killed. Like I'm not used to that. Like that's still very uncomfortable for me. Talking to a father who lost his baby girl. Like I can't. The last person they want to see or talk to is me. And what can I say in that moment to make them feel any better? Like I have a job to do. They know I'm just here to get a story, but I'm human at the end of the day. And so it's like that's really been uncomfortable for me, talking to people who have lost loved ones, family and friends. And I don't know how people who actually have done news for all these years can even maintain that, because I don't think I could, honestly. I just can't. I can't. I'm still a human, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I'll never be numb to a shooting. I'll never be numb to that. And I feel like some people on the news have become numb.
So are you grateful that you had the chance to be in that deep water, to be thrown into that situation, that, you know, going over the news, covering those kinds of stories, being human in a very vulnerable, in a situation that's very vulnerable for other people?
I'm definitely grateful at the opportunity. And just over this past year covering news, I've grown as a journalist, because I've been stretched so much, in so many ways. I've been challenged on how I'm telling these stories, the questions that I'm asking, not just doing surface level stories, but really stories that connect with the viewer, right? Especially in these times. And so, as far as journalistically, the skills that I've gained, it's been priceless for me. And so I feel like you go through certain things for a reason in life. And so for me, doing news is just adding more to my skill sets wherever I'm going to. I don't know what's next. This journey has been crazy so far. I don't know what's going to happen next. So, but at least I have something that I can fall back on just in case. Because sports, as you know, locally they're cutting back in some markets. Even in my market, at my station, they're cutting back on sports. So news is something that I may need to have in my repertoire one day. You never know. So just so that I'm versatile, you never know. When a pandemic may hit and we need somebody who can transition to covering a pandemic, I can say I've done that. So in that sense, I'm grateful.
I mean, I loved that last chunk that we were able to talk to you about, and I appreciate you, sort of opening up about it too.
Sure.
And I got to say, welcome to the fraternity of the lightning round.
Man,
a very esteemed, very well regarded and beloved role to have. Something you should add to your resume.
For sure.
Put that on the reel.
And something. I mean, man, you look at things like the Heisman fraternity. I like to think that we're up there with them. They'll never understand. We won't understand the Heisman fraternity. Nobody understands the lightning round fraternity unless you're a member. And you, sir, are a card-carrying member.
I feel honored. It wasn't easy, trial by fire, but I got through it, guys. So thank you so much. And I'm gonna do some research on still in the league. I'm gonna give you like a legit starting five. I feel like there's some names I'm missing, but that's my own one.
We put you on the spot, man. You did very well being put on the spot. Hey, look, and on that note, let's raise our drinks of choice. Look, Jon, I'm so proud of you for everything you've been up to, man.
Thank you.
It's great seeing you, rock it from Abilene to Hattiesburg to Memphis. Yeah, man, it's great to get you on here. You're a certified sports amigo now.
My man.
Episode 6 in the books. Jon Marshall, we love you.
Love
Cheers
y'all.
to you, buddy.
Good seeing y'all.